Hey there! Unity's new input system isn't really new anymore. In fact, starting with Unity 6, it's the default. In this video, we'll cover the fundamentals, what the input system is, and how to get started with actions and events to control a character. Now, there are plenty of beginner tutorials out there, but I wanted to create something more definitive. And since there's a lot of ground to cover, this will be a series, starting simple and building up to more advanced techniques. So, buckle up. As of today, Unity supports two built-in ways of accessing input, the old Input Manager and the new Input System. You're all familiar with Input Manager. It's the static input class you use to access on every frame to check for user input. Is the spacebar key down? What is the horizontal axis of the input? And so on. Input System is different. It's event-based, meaning you're no longer required to poll every frame. Instead, you can subscribe to an event and get notified when the action you're expecting is performed. It also brings abstraction to the table. You're no longer asking for a specific button, you work with actions, which enables you to allow button remapping mid-game and support a potentially unlimited number of devices. With actions, instead of asking whether a spacebar was pressed, you're asking whether a jump was performed. And you don't care what button it was, a spacebar, an up arrow, a tap on a touchscreen, or a button on a controller. Now let's see how we can use the system. What you see here is a setup that I created specifically for this example. A player movement handler class that is responsible for moving and animating a character, which by itself will do nothing, but it has three public methods that set the input. And then this class performs the movement based on that input. This allows me to easily create different input implementations in isolated classes. Not necessarily the best architectural approach, but great for demonstration. To start easy, let's use the input system the way it wasn't designed to be used. Let's do what Input Manager does, access the hardware directly. You shouldn't do it, but who's going to stop you? Input System doesn't have a getAccess method, so I need to implement it myself. By default, I return an empty vector 2. And now the fun starts. I can access the keyboard directly via the singleton pattern. Then I select a key and check whether it was pressed during this frame. If the key was pressed, I modify the input vector accordingly. Two things to note here. I'm not checking the arrow keys because for this example it's just a waste of time. And second, similar to Input Manager, I'm accessing only keyboard keys. So, yeah, only keyboard input will work. Now I need to query this method during an update loop. But first, I want to make sure that the keyboard exists. Yep, there's a possibility that it doesn't, and we don't want any null reference exceptions. After making sure we have a keyboard, I can fetch the current access. I also need to know if the spacebar was pressed, so I'll fetch that as well. And lastly, I'll update the movement handler with the input values from this frame. This will move the character. In order to test the code, all I have to do is add the player input controller component to the character here and drag the movement handler reference to the serialized field. Now in play mode, I'll be able to navigate with the WASD keys and jump with the spacebar. So far, an old approach with new syntax, but you really shouldn't use the new system this way. If you really want to query the keyboard each frame, you should stick to Input Manager. At least you won't need to implement methods like getAccess on your own. Speaking of Input Manager, starting with Unity 6, it is no longer a default option in new projects. And if you try to use it, you'll be greeted with runtime exceptions telling you that Input Manager is disabled. The setting is located in the player section of the project settings. If you scroll here, roughly in the middle you can find the active input handling setting. In projects created with Unity 6 or higher, it will be set to Input System package, while older projects will have the Input Manager. The main reason for this separation is performance, because it doesn't really matter what you choose, the selected method will require a bit of runtime resources. And if you're using one method, there's no real reason to spend those resources on the other method. But as you can see, there's an option to allow both input methods. This can be useful during a migration from Input Manager to Input System, or if you're using one method but a third-party plugin in your project uses another. By the way, notice that it says Input System Package. In Unity 6, it's a package that comes with every new project. But if you're upgrading, you might need to install this package yourself. Just go Window, Package Management, and Package Manager. Here, navigate to Unity Registry and search for Input System. For me, it's already installed. If it isn't for you, you'll see an Install button here. Input System works with so-called input action assets, scriptable objects containing input configuration. Let's get back to project settings, but this time we'll navigate to Input System Package Settings. Here we can configure a default asset that is always enabled and accessible from anywhere. New projects with Unity 6 come with a pre-configured asset that includes many common actions like movement, look around, attack, and so on. At the moment, you don't really have to understand what action maps, actions, or action properties are. We'll get to it. For now, all you have to know is that we have a player action map that we can use, which contains actions called move and jump. All of those actions are bound to buttons. For example, the move action is bound to a left gamepad stick, WASD and arrow keys on the keyboard, the primary 2D axis on the XR controller, and a stick on a joystick. Let's use it. I'll start by deleting the previous implementation. We won't need it. But I'll leave the reference for the movement handler because I'll still use it. I'm going to implement movement and jumping, so I'll need an input action reference for each one of them. During awake, I can access the default asset with the singleton pattern, and then I can search for the action map called player. In a real-life scenario, you should null check here because both the action property and the action map can be null. But again, in real life, you probably wouldn't use a string reference either. But we'll get to that. Next thing, I need to find the actions I'm interested in. First, the move action, and then the jump action. Lastly, I can subscribe to action events. Every input action has 3 events: started, performed, and cancelled. The intent behind those events varies depending on configuration, but as a rule of thumb, for a simple button, started and performed will be called when the button is down, and cancelled when the button is up. For the move action, I want to know when the input changed, so I'll use the performed event for that. I also want to know when the movement input has stopped, so subscribe to the cancelled event as well. Same goes for the jump action. Performed to know when jump was pressed, and cancelled to know when it was released. The next step is the reason I'm keeping the actions as class fields. It's unsubscription. During onDestroy, I want to perform a cleanup, so I'll unsubscribe from all events I've subscribed to. And now, let's implement the callbacks for the events. First, let's handle the movement. As you can see, the event passes us a context. We can use this context to retrieve the current value of the action by reading the value of type vector2. Then, as before, I'll pass the value to the movement handler. Next, I'll handle the cancellation of the movement input. Nothing special here, I don't even need to retrieve the value from the context. I'll just pass a 0 vector to the movement handler. When the jump button is pressed, I want to notify the handler that a jump is requested. Now, my handler knows how to consume an input request, and I don't really need to reset it when the jump button is released. But I'll do it anyway, for safety. And that's it. Since I worked in the same class, I don't really need to change anything in Unity. I can just launch play mode. And it's a similar picture over here. I can move and I can jump, but this time I can use the WASD keys, the arrow keys, and if I were to connect a controller, it would work as well. This is great, but as I already pointed out, referencing things by strings is far from ideal. Thankfully, we can do better. We can actually reference the actions as serialized fields via the input action reference class. Now I no longer need the references for the actions. I can also get rid of all of the finding code here. The only adjustment I have left to make is to change the path for the event in both the awake and the onDestroy methods. I can access the action inside the input action reference. The rest is the same. Now in Unity, I can wire the actions. If I press the circle icon here, just as with any other asset, it'll open a search box with all the actions I can reference. The naming goes like this. First, the action map name, followed by a slash, and then the action name. At the bottom, you can see the asset we're referencing this from. For example, there's the project-wide asset we've been using so far, but you'll notice that I have other assets as well. For movement, I'll select the player move action, and for jump, the player jump action, both from the project-wide asset. Now I can enter play mode and wait for it to load. And as before, the player moves, rotates, and jumps. So now you know the basics: how the input system differs from the input manager, how to work with actions, events, and how to reference them properly in your code. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and press the notification icon so you don't miss what's coming next. Next week, we'll dive even deeper. We'll create our own input action asset and customize its interactions. Keep on creating, and I'll see you in the next one.